In the last few moments, a Boeing statement has just been released. Let me bring that to you. A quote: "We are at Boeing are sorry for the lives lost in the recent 737 MAX accidents. These tragedies continue to weigh heavily on our hearts and minds, and we extend our sympathies to the loved ones of the passengers and crew on board Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. All of us feel the immense gravity of these events across our company and recognize the devastation of the families and friends of the loved ones who perished." In a separate quote, "We own it. We take responsibility." Let's talk more about this. Mary Schiavo was Inspector General at the U.S. Transportation Department. She now represents families of air crash victims and currently has litigation pending against Boeing. Mary, great to have you with us. I mean, that was just a little subset of this broader statement from Boeing at this moment. But my read on this is that Boeing's coming out directly here and hands up. It was the MCAS system. We're taking responsibility and we're working to fix it. Your take here?
As well, they should. I mean, this is something that Boeing should have done right from the start. They should have done this after the Lion Air crash. But obviously, for anyone to have any confidence in a Boeing aircraft again, they have to step up the plate and take responsibility. And key in that statement, I thought, is where they said the MCAS system went off. It was unintended to go off when it did. Obviously, you don't want to push the nose down on takeoff. Anyone who's ever flown a plane, even, me, like small planes, everyone knows you cannot have a system that pushes the nose down on takeoff. It is sad and unfortunate that it took an Ethiopia crash after the Lion Air crash to have this happen. But this is what Boeing needed to do immediately after the Lion Air crash and now after this one. And they said again, we will make sure this does not, the MCAS system does not have another unintended misfiring. In other words, this system won't go off. That's a tough promise to keep because it's happened twice.
I mean, Mary, you raised an important point, and that was what we got from this preliminary report. And this isn't conclusions, just the early stages, with the similarities between what we saw here in this Ethiopian Airlines flight and what we saw 5 months ago in the Lion Air crash here. I mean, you raise a very important point here. Hindsight is perfect sight, but there will be all sorts of questions here, not only for Boeing, but for the FAA, and why this aircraft wasn't grounded after that Lion Air flight crash. And actually, we had to wait 5 months and another flight crash before affirmative action was taken.
Well, I think I have an idea, and I see this in so many crashes that I've worked over the years, because after the first one, they always blame the pilots. They say, well, the pilots should have been able to fly out of it. We go back to this daring do barnstormer days of, the brag of pilots of years gone by. I can fly anything. I can fly a barn door. Well, you can't, because you're flying a computer now. And in this case, you weren't even told that the computer in this computer system, was there. So we heard, and I think very unfairly after the Lion Air crash, trying to blame the pilots, saying the pilots should have been able to shut off this system and fly out of it. But with Ethiopia, we now know they had just 40 seconds or less, and they tried to shut it off, and it didn't work, apparently, according to this preliminary report, which is only preliminary. But that puts a whole new face on this problem, and it puts it squarely at Boeing's doorstep. And it was correct for them to say, we take responsibility. I think that's what the world needs to hear from Boeing right now.
The question, Mary, is it enough? I'm just going to pull another extract out. Together, we will do everything possible to earn and re-earn the trust and confidence from our customers and the flying public in the weeks and months ahead. I mean, we can put a financial price on compensation to some degree on the cost of grounding flights. What we can't put a price on here is reputational risk here, Mary. Can Boeing get that back in the weeks and months here?
Well, I think that's entirely up to Boeing. What Boeing does in the wake of this, now people are suspect about this plane, and they need to be, because now the whole world has learned that this plane has a tendency to pitch nose up. And it does that because of the new engines they put on the MAX, because of changes in landing gear that no one's talked about yet, and changes they made to the tail. The tail's a little bit different than other 737s. Boeing really needs to go back and see if a software patch was the right thing for airworthiness for a plane that tends to pitch nose up. And if Boeing's willing to bet its reputation, its company on that, then that's something that Boeing will have to solve largely by itself, since we now know the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration isn't much help and doesn't have the expertise. If they have a third one, this line is done. There will be no one willing to board a 737 MAX ever again. So Boeing's got to get it right, and I think they have to go back prior to the software patch to really satisfy the world that this plane is not going to pitch nose up and not going to do something unintended that the pilots can't control. So they're at a crossroads.
Make sure it's not just a software fix, it's not a bigger problem like a hardware problem or the structure of the plane. Mary, you raise another very important point. Thank you. Mary Schiavo speaking there.